I'm going to tell you guys, I just got to be honest. At this point, I just got to be honest. I believe the Browns are playing in our face. Yes, they're playing in our face. Now, it was great to hear from the offensive coordinator, Travis Switzer, in regards to Shedeur possibly still making a running for the starting quarterback position. But the depth chart came out about an hour ago, and they're clearly playing in our face. Have you ever seen a depth chart where it says Deshaun Watson or
That right there is the accusation driving this entire Browns quarterback controversy. If Shedeur Sanders is supposedly still competing for the job, why does the depth chart keep making it look like somebody else is ahead of him? Welcome back to NFL Pulse, because the deeper question isn't whether Shedeur can make throws. It's whether Cleveland is actually giving every quarterback the same chance to win this thing.
Shedeur lit it up again in 7-on-7s. One thing your boy John the Liquidator hasn't been completely honest with you guys about is Shedeur Sanders basically getting benched for overachieving. I'm starting to believe, this is my opinion, not no one else's. I'm starting to believe the Browns do not want Shedeur to win any damn football games. Because if Shedeur come in here and win football games, you know what that means? Because I know what that means. That means they cannot get Arch Manning or any one other four quarterbacks.
And this is where the argument gets much bigger than one practice report. The theory being floated is that Cleveland could somehow benefit from Shedeur not winning too many games because of the 2027 quarterback class. That's a dramatic conclusion, and there is no evidence in this transcript proving the Browns are deliberately trying to lose or manipulating the competition for draft position. But the suspicion matters because fans are looking at the way this quarterback battle is being presented and asking whether the incentives even line up. Keep that question in the back of your mind, because later we're going to get to the part that matters more than any depth chart wording: what the quarterbacks are actually being asked to do on the field. And once you compare the structure of those reps, the conversation gets a lot more complicated than simply counting completions.
Bro, I don't think they want to win 8-9 games. And I tell you this, I believe that they gonna play Dylan Gabriel before they play Shedeur. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me, look, if this happens, we know the sabotage is all the way in full effect. So this was the depth chart that came out about an hour ago, right? It says here, wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy.
There is another prediction worth tracking. Dylan Gabriel could get an opportunity before Shedeur. Again, that's speculation from the commentator, not something established by the Browns here. But if Cleveland reaches the regular season and the order of opportunity looks completely different from the way the competition has been publicly described, people are going to remember this moment, because quarterback competitions aren't only judged by what coaches say. They're judged by rep distribution, preseason snaps, offensive personnel, play calls, depth chart placement, and eventually who gets trusted when the games matter. Any one of those things can be explained. Put several of them together, though, and fans start building a pattern. And that's where Cleveland has created a communication problem for itself. If this truly is an open competition, clarity helps them. If Deshaun Watson is meaningfully ahead, say that. If Shedeur is genuinely tied with him, then fans naturally want to know why the presentation doesn't look tied.
Our receiver, Denzel Boston. Quarterback, Deshaun Watson or Shedeur. Why come it can't say Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson? Why is Deshaun Watson name in front of Shedeur? In front of Shedeur. Let's pull up real quick. I want to put
that little word "or" is doing a ridiculous amount of work. The depth chart apparently lists Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, and the frustration is over Watson's name appearing first. Now, an ordering choice on a depth chart is not definitive proof of anything. Teams use unofficial charts, administrative formatting, veteran precedents, and plenty of other conventions that don't necessarily mirror the coach's internal ranking. But perception matters. If Cleveland wants everybody to believe these quarterbacks are running neck and neck, putting the veteran first while using "or" gives both sides something to argue about. Watson supporters can say he's listed first for a reason. Shedeur supporters can say the "or" proves he has closed the gap. And Cleveland gets to avoid committing. That's why this has become such an effective controversy. The team can point to ambiguity. Fans can point to the exact exact same ambiguity and say that's the problem.
I want Shedeur to start. I definitely do. I don't want to see nobody else be the starter, but I got to tell the truth. And the truth of the matter is they're playing in our face. Shedeur Sanders today, 17 to 25, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Deshaun Watson, 20 of 29, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Gabriel, 5 of 11, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Watch Shedeur ain't got no touchdowns because we ain't even got to the film part yet.
Now we finally get numbers from the day's work. Shedeur Sanders went 17 of 25 with no touchdowns and no interceptions. Deshaun Watson went 20 of 29 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Dillon Gabriel went 5 of 11 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. On the surface, Watson has the touchdown. Shedeur has the clean turnover column, but practice stat lines without route depth, pressure context, situational period, personnel, defensive look, and play design can be deeply misleading. A quarterback can go 17 of 25 while being asked to live underneath all afternoon. Another quarterback can throw fewer high-percentage passes but receive more red zone opportunities or more vertical concepts. A touchdown count can tell you what happened. It doesn't automatically tell you why. That's precisely why the next footage matters more than the spreadsheet. If Shedeur's stat line looks conservative because the offense around him was conservative, that's one conversation. If he was repeatedly passing up aggressive options and settling underneath, that's another. You have to watch the reps before assigning motive.
Man, y'all cannot believe me if y'all don't want to, but they're playing in our faces. Look at this. Training camp. This right here is from the first week, right? Shedeur, 156 of 222 completions. Deshaun Watson, 155 of 241. 18 touchdowns. He got more reps. Shedeur, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Deshaun Watson, 8 interceptions. Dillon Gabriel, 68 of 106, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Green, 17 to 21.
And the larger camp tracker makes the evaluation even messier. According to the numbers shown in the source, Shedeur was 156 of 222 with 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, while Watson was 155 of 241 with 18 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Gabriel was listed at 68 of 106 with 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Those totals give Shedeur supporters an obvious argument. His completion rate is strong, his interception number is lower than Watson's, and he has done that on fewer attempts than Watson. But here's the counter-argument Cleveland coaches would probably care about. Practice completion percentage isn't a starting quarterback trophy. Coaches are grading footwork, timing, command at the line, protection recognition, whether the ball went to the correct read, whether a quarterback created a sack by holding the ball, whether the offense stayed on schedule, and whether a completion actually came from executing the design correctly. So if you only use tracker statistics to declare a winner, you can fool yourself. At the same time, if Shedeur keeps producing efficient numbers and never seems to advance organizationally, then the Browns should expect people to ask what part of the evaluation isn't visible publicly. That's the tension. Statistics don't prove he should start, but they absolutely keep his case alive.
Somebody said 70% touchdown ratio. This is insanity to even track. We need the season to start. Exactly, bro. This is a bunch of buffoonery right here. Bunch of buffoonery, these QB trackers. That's why I don't even like reporting on it like that no more, bro. Because it's just a bunch of BS. They plan in our face. Cold-heartedly playing in our damn face. Here go another look at the entire depth chart. So this is the one that they submitted to the NFL, right? It still say Deshaun Watson, or why come Deshaun Watson's name is in front of Shedeur's?
Even the commentator reaches the point where he calls these trackers unreliable. And that's actually an important concession, because once you admit the numbers don't capture the entire competition, the argument has to move toward film and opportunity. This is also where accusations of sabotage need to be handled carefully. Nothing shown here establishes deliberate sabotage. A team can prefer another quarterback for football reasons that aren't obvious from a fan's practice compilation. Coaches could value experience, operation of the offense, protection checks, consistency in the install, or simply what they're seeing in meetings. But Cleveland cannot have it both ways forever. If Shedeur is continuously presented as a legitimate candidate, then his reps eventually need to resemble the reps of somebody being seriously evaluated for the job. And if you're following this race through camp and preseason, subscribing is an easy way to keep the evidence straight, because now we get to the footage that actually explains why people think the opportunities may not look equal.
Check down. Boom. Out the gate. Check down. Could this be why Shedeur ain't got no damn touchdowns for today? Because this is a check down. Out the gate. What is this? This is what they're giving us? This is what they're giving us. Short pass. Boom. Out the gate.
Watch the pattern. Check down, short throw, another ball underneath. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. Quarterbacks make money taking what's available, and a check down is often the correct decision. Every offense needs easy completions. Every quarterback has to prove he can stay on schedule. The problem is that you cannot evaluate a quarterback's entire ceiling if all the public footage shows is the low-risk portion of the offense. If Shedeur is supposed to be competing for an NFL starting job, people want to see the full menu: intermediate timing routes, anticipation throws between zones, outbreaking concepts, vertical shots, progression work, throws when the pocket compresses. And there are two very different possibilities here. Possibility 1, those deeper concepts were called and Shedeur chose the short option because that's what the defense gave him. If that's what happened, then criticizing Cleveland for the result would be unfair. Possibility 2, the offense itself gave him a disproportionate number of conservative concepts. If that's what happened, then the evaluation becomes harder to compare directly with the other quarterbacks. Without the full playbook and coach's tape, we can't prove which one it is. But you can understand why the visual feeds the controversy. Fans aren't just counting passes anymore. They're asking what kind of test each quarterback is taking.
So ain't nobody gonna react to these plays. We're already like 4 plays in. I ain't seen no 30-yard pass, no fade route, no post, no none of that. Check down. Bet you dropped it. Oh, I knew it. Soon as he got a fade route. Bro, as soon as Shedeur threw a fade route, he dropped it. He dropped the damn ball. Look at this. Tell me I'm tripping. Look at this. Boom, fade route. Bow, drop the damn ball.
And then, finally, Shedeur gets the type of rep everybody has been waiting for, a fade down the field. The ball gives the receiver an opportunity, and the receiver doesn't finish the catch. That matters because quarterback evaluation cannot be reduced to the box score of a practice. A drop touchdown doesn't become a touchdown in the tracker just because the quarterback did his job. A perfect protection bust can ruin a rep before the quarterback has a chance. A receiver running the wrong depth can make a throw appear inaccurate. Football evaluation is interconnected. This particular play doesn't prove Shedeur is winning the competition either. It simply demonstrates why raw touchdown totals need context. If somebody says, Watson had more touchdowns today, that's factually useful. If they leap from that to, therefore Watson clearly played better, now you need the film. And there is something else worth noticing about Shedeur's situation. Because of the attention around him, every rep becomes evidence for somebody. A check down means Cleveland is restricting him. A miss means he's not ready. A completion means he's being held back. A mistake by another quarterback means the competition is rigged. That makes objective evaluation difficult. So the fairest standard is simple. Same situation, same concept, same protection quality, same caliber of defense, then compare the decision and execution. We don't have enough information in this transcript to make every one of those controls equal. What we do have are glimpses, and those glimpses are keeping the argument alive.
Boom! Short pass. Dude wasn't snapping the ball. Shedeur saying, let's go. Let's go. What a ball at. He clapping that dude. Look at this. Damn shit.
Then the offense goes right back underneath. This is the stretch that fuels the strongest criticism because repeated short concepts can make a quarterback's practice look safe without necessarily showing whether he can attack the defense vertically. But there is a football reason coaches sometimes do this with younger quarterbacks. They may be testing whether he'll take the boring answer. Rookie quarterbacks can get themselves into trouble chasing highlights when a defense is inviting them to be impatient. If Cleveland is intentionally making Shedeur prove he can operate within structure, underneath throws could actually be part of the evaluation rather than evidence against him. That's the counterpoint Shedeur's strongest supporters have to acknowledge. What matters is whether the standard remains consistent. If another quarterback is being given significantly more aggressive concepts in comparable periods, then those results shouldn't be treated as identical data. You wouldn't compare a quarterback throwing flats and hitches with somebody repeatedly attacking intermediate windows and pretend touchdown totals tell the whole story. And here on NFL Pulse, that's the part worth separating from the noise. You don't have to believe there's a conspiracy to recognize that play call context matters. The Browns can quiet most of this discussion themselves. Give all the contenders meaningful preseason work. Let them run comparable portions of the offense. Put them against legitimate defensive personnel. Then the debate becomes much cleaner. Until then, every short pass becomes another argument.
What are we doing, bro? What are we doing, bro? I can't wait to look at this Deshaun Watson highlight. Why they ain't snapping the ball, bro? Watch. Watch this. Watch this. False start, bro.
This is where fan frustration becomes understandable even if the conclusion goes too far. When somebody watches clip after clip of a quarterback working underneath, they naturally ask whether the offense is being designed to showcase him or merely get through the period. But "I don't like these reps" is different from "the Browns are intentionally preventing him from succeeding." That distinction matters. Cleveland drafted Shedeur. Cleveland invested the roster spot. Cleveland's coaches have every incentive to find out whether they have a useful NFL quarterback, because hitting on a young quarterback is one of the most valuable outcomes a franchise can get. A good rookie contract at the position can reshape roster construction. If a late draft pick develops into a legitimate starter, that is an enormous organizational win, which is exactly why the tanking theory deserves skepticism. The claim that Cleveland would suppress a potentially winning quarterback just to preserve access to a future prospect would require an extraordinary level of organizational coordination and risk. Coaches and executives rarely have infinite job security. Players certainly don't. Asking an entire football operation to sacrifice current results for a hypothetical future quarterback is a much bigger claim than anything demonstrated in these clips. Could Cleveland already have preferences within this competition? Of course, every coaching staff does. Could they value one quarterback more highly than public practice statistics suggest? Absolutely. But that's different from intentionally trying to lose, and separating those two ideas makes the debate stronger, not weaker.
Look, dude, well, Shedeur just threw that away for taking a sack. Bro, why Shedeur throwing all these? Okay, here go a long pass. Now that one there was on Shedeur. That was a bad thrown ball. That was on Shedeur, bro. I can't even lie. That one there was. Let's see.
Now we get a necessary moment of accountability. Shedeur finally misses one downfield, and the commentator immediately says the throw was on him. That's important because any credible case for Shedeur has to include his bad reps too. The worst way to evaluate a quarterback competition is to explain away every mistake from your preferred player while magnifying every mistake from everybody else. If Shedeur misses a throw, log it. If he holds the football too long, log it. If Watson misreads coverage, log it. If Gabriel puts the ball in danger, log it. Then look at the pattern instead of one viral snap. For Shedeur specifically, the questions going into an NFL evaluation were never just about arm talent. A quarterback has to consistently process on time, protect himself from unnecessary negative plays, understand when the pocket is dying, and keep the offense on schedule. One bad deep ball doesn't answer those questions either way. What it does show is that he is getting at least some opportunities to push the football, and he isn't going to hit all of them. That's normal. The larger question is whether the Browns believe his good moments are translating quickly enough to trust him with more responsibility. And that's something no unofficial tracker can fully tell us.
Let's see some of Deshaun Watson highlights, bro. Let's see. I want to see the difference. Okay, here we go. Here. Gunslinging. Oh, damn, that was a pick. That was a pick there. Foul. Look at this.
Now we finally get the comparison people wanted, Deshaun Watson's footage. Almost immediately, there's a ball the commentator identifies as an interception. Then we see another rep where Watson appears to hold the football long enough for the narrator to throw one of the main criticisms aimed at Shedeur right back at him. This is the strongest part of the argument against treating reputation as the deciding factor. If Shedeur gets penalized in public discussion for holding the ball, then Watson has to be judged by the same standard when he does it. If interceptions matter for one quarterback, they matter for all of them. Veteran status can explain why coaches may trust Watson more with certain responsibilities, but it shouldn't immunize poor execution. And remember those camp totals from earlier. The tracker shown in the source credited Watson with 8 interceptions compared with 4 for Shedeur. That doesn't automatically make Sanders the better quarterback because, again, we don't know the difficulty of every rep, but it certainly prevents anybody from pretending the veteran has been spotless. This is where the Browns' eventual decision becomes more difficult to sell purely on statistics. If Watson starts, Cleveland may have excellent football reasons that aren't captured on social media practice clips, but the team will need him to justify that trust quickly because the fan base has now been watching Shedeur's numbers and mistakes side by side with everyone else's. And once fans believe a competition has not been decided strictly by performance, every bad throw from the chosen starter becomes gasoline. That's the real organizational risk.
Sack. But wait. I thought Shedeur was the one that hold on to the ball too long. That's what y'all said. Ain't that what y'all been saying? Come, bro, I don't even want to watch this no more. I've seen enough.
And there's the emotional payoff to this entire video. After all the trackers, all the depth chart wording, all the short throws, all the comparisons, the commentator says he's seen enough. But this is where we can finally answer the bigger question without jumping beyond the evidence. Is there proof in this footage that the Cleveland Browns are sabotaging Shedeur Sanders? No. What there is, however, is enough ambiguity to understand why his supporters don't trust the way this competition is being presented. The depth chart uses wording that suggests multiple possibilities while still placing Watson's name first. Practice trackers show Shedeur producing efficient completion numbers and fewer interceptions than Watson in the totals cited here. The public footage includes long stretches of conservative throws for Sanders, along with at least one downfield opportunity that was dropped and another deeper ball he missed. Watson's own footage contains mistakes as well. That does not equal sabotage. It equals an unresolved quarterback battle being interpreted through incomplete information. And the Browns now face a very simple problem. The longer they keep the competition ambiguous, the more every detail becomes evidence in somebody's case. If they give Watson the job, people will ask whether veteran status outweighed camp performance. If they elevate Gabriel first, Shedeur supporters are going to examine every practice statistic and preseason rep looking for an explanation. If Sanders gets the opportunity and plays well, then every earlier question about his place in the pecking order becomes louder. And if he gets the opportunity and struggles, Cleveland will be able to point back toward whatever concerns they were seeing internally. That's why preseason matters so much. Practice reports can be filtered through observers, unofficial completion trackers can count plays without grading them, highlight compilations can show 10 throws and leave out 30 others. But preseason games give us something closer to a controlled environment. Same scoreboard, same consequences, identifiable down and distance, pass rushers actually trying to finish plays, and drives where quarterbacks have to recover from mistakes. That is where this competition should become easier to judge. Watch how many snaps each quarterback receives. Watch when those snaps happen. First-team offensive line or backups, starting receivers or bottom-of-the-roster players. What defensive personnel are they facing? Does one quarterback get a 2-minute drill while another gets handoff-heavy possessions? Who gets red zone opportunities? Who gets trusted on 3rd and long? Who is allowed to change protection at the line? Those details will tell us far more than whether somebody's name appears before an "or" on a preseason depth chart. And there is another piece of this that shouldn't get lost. Shedeur does not need Cleveland to prove a conspiracy for his story to be compelling. If he keeps performing well enough to force the staff into harder decisions, that's already a major storyline. A rookie quarterback climbing from wherever the organization initially projected him to a legitimate starting conversation is significant by itself. The most powerful thing he can do isn't win an argument online, it's make the decision impossible to hide behind ambiguity. Complete the throws, avoid giveaways, get the ball out on time, handle pressure, move the chains, finish drives. Make the coaches explain why somebody else deserves the job more, because once a quarterback does that against actual NFL competition, the debate changes from perception to evidence. And Cleveland has stakes here too. Choosing a quarterback isn't just about week 1. If the Browns misidentify the best option on their roster, they lose games, development time, and potentially clarity about the future of the position. If they get it right, even an uncomfortable camp controversy disappears quickly because winning solves most depth chart arguments. That's why I wouldn't obsess over whether Watson's name appears first today. I'd watch what Cleveland does next. Do they increase Shedeur's responsibility? Does the passing menu expand? Does he get meaningful snaps with better personnel? Does he receive a fair chance to respond after a mistake? And when preseason gets tense, which quarterback does the coaching staff trust to run the offense rather than simply survive the possession? Those are harder clues to fake. The Browns can call the competition whatever they want. The snaps will eventually expose the hierarchy. And if you want the cleanest way to judge this battle, ignore the loudest theory for a moment and track the opportunity. Performance matters, but opportunity determines which performances are even possible. So now the choice is yours. Are the Browns simply managing a complicated quarterback competition exactly the way NFL teams usually do? Or has Shedeur Sanders already shown enough to deserve a much clearer path toward the starting job? Tell me which side you're on. Subscribe to NFL Pulse and watch what Cleveland does when the games finally force them to stop speaking in "or."